Ladies and gentlemen, forgiveness. It is a word we hear often, yet so many of us struggle to understand its true meaning and importance. We speak of forgiveness as if it is something simple, perhaps an easy act of letting go. But the reality of forgiveness is much more profound and requires us to examine not just our actions but our hearts. When someone hurts us, the natural response is to cling to our hurt. Our emotions demand justice and our minds dwell on the wrongs done to us. We want retribution, or at least to feel that the balance of the universe has been restored. Yet, in holding on to these feelings, we only bind ourselves to the very pain that we wish to escape. It is like holding tightly to a burning coal, hoping the other person will feel the heat. The result is not justice, but suffering for both the victim and the perpetrator. To forgive, then, is not merely to excuse the wrongdoing. It is not to say that the offense was acceptable or that the person who caused it should not be held accountable. Rather, forgiveness is the deliberate act of choosing to no longer allow that hurt to control our lives. We free ourselves from the grasp of resentment and anger. We choose peace over bitterness. We embrace healing, even when the wrong remains uncorrected. In this light, forgiveness is not a one-time act, but a continual process, a renewal of our minds, a choice we make each day to let go of the weight that grudges place upon us. And in doing so, we are reminded that we do not forgive for the sake of the person who wronged us, but for the sake of our own freedom. To forgive is to release the power that the offense holds over us. It is a choice to be unburdened, to walk lighter, and to grow stronger in the face of adversity. Forgiveness does not diminish the wrong done to us. It does not erase the memory of the pain we endured. Rather, it allows us to transcend that pain. It frees us from the hold of the past so that we may embrace the future with a heart unshackled by the chains of bitterness. And in this freedom, we find the peace that we so long for. Forgiveness is often thought of as a simple act, a momentary decision to release someone from the debt of their wrongdoings. It is seen as something we do when we choose to stop holding a grudge or to move on from the hurt someone has caused. However, this common view fails to capture the depth and complexity of true forgiveness. To understand forgiveness fully, we must recognize that it is not just about letting go of past hurts or excusing others' behavior. It is about a profound internal transformation. Forgiveness involves changing our inner state and our relationship with the past, allowing us to regain control over our emotional responses and thoughts. This transformation is not easy, and it often requires a conscious, sustained effort to shift our perspective and overcome our natural inclinations. At the core of true forgiveness lies the choice to release not just the act of wrong, but the emotional hold that the wrongdoer has on us. It is one thing to say, "I forgive," but another to actually work through the feelings of anger, betrayal, and pain that accompany the wrongdoing. These feelings are not easily dismissed, as they often tap into our deepest vulnerabilities and beliefs about fairness, justice, and our worth. When we are hurt, our first instinct is often to feel victimized, and this feeling can become so powerful that we allow it to define our relationship to the person who harmed us. We might think that by holding on to these feelings, we are asserting our righteousness or protecting ourselves from further harm. Yet, in reality, these negative emotions trap us in the past and prevent us from moving forward. Forgiveness, therefore, is not about denying the reality of the pain or pretending that the offense did not occur. True forgiveness is about choosing to let go of the emotional grip that the offense has on us. It is about deciding that we will not allow the person who hurt us to continue influencing our lives through anger or resentment. This act of releasing is what distinguishes genuine forgiveness from superficial or forced forgiveness. Superficial forgiveness might involve pretending to forgive for the sake of peace, but it leaves the emotional wound untended, and the bitterness eventually resurfaces. True forgiveness, however, requires vulnerability and a willingness to engage with the pain, acknowledge it, and then actively choose to free oneself from it. This internal shift is not a passive process. It demands that we consciously examine our emotions and thoughts. It asks us to acknowledge that we are not defined by the hurt we have experienced, and that our lives need not be shaped by the wrongs others have done to us. In this sense, forgiveness is also an act of reclaiming our personal power. When we forgive, we are not only releasing others from the debt of their actions, we are also releasing ourselves from the emotional burden that comes with holding on to those actions. We stop allowing the offender's behavior to control our emotional state and instead take responsibility for our own peace of mind. Forgiveness requires a shift in our understanding of justice. It is easy to fall into the belief that forgiving someone means excusing their behavior or failing to hold them accountable. This misconception can make forgiveness seem like an injustice in itself. However, true forgiveness is not about negating justice, but about choosing a different approach to it. Forgiveness recognizes that justice is not always in our hands, and that holding on to anger or seeking revenge often perpetuates more harm than good. By forgiving, we choose to trust that justice will ultimately prevail, whether through the natural course of events or through a higher moral order. This understanding allows us to release the need for personal retribution and shift our focus toward healing rather than harm. In practical terms, forgiveness is a process that unfolds over time. It may involve revisiting the hurt in our minds and working through the emotions that accompany it. It may require us to challenge our narratives about the person who hurt us, to see them not as a villain, but as a flawed human being. This does not mean excusing their actions or absolving them of responsibility, but rather acknowledging that, like all people, they are imperfect and capable of making mistakes. This shift in perspective can make the act of forgiveness less about the other person and more about our own emotional well-being and personal growth. The act of forgiving is a commitment to living a life unburdened by past hurts. It is a decision to free ourselves from the negative emotions that keep us anchored to an experience we can no longer change. Forgiveness does not deny the reality of pain or injustice. It recognizes that the only way to transcend these is by letting go of the hold they have on us. Through this process, we regain control over our emotional landscape and take the first step toward healing and renewal. Harboring unforgiveness is often viewed as a way to protect ourselves from further harm, but in reality, it is a trap that causes more damage to our emotional, mental, and even physical well-being. When we hold on to anger, resentment, and bitterness, we are not punishing the person who wronged us. Rather, we are imprisoning ourselves in a state of constant pain and negativity. Unforgiveness keeps us tied to the very thing we wish to escape, the hurt we experienced. It clouds our judgment, inhibits our ability to heal, and impedes our ability to move forward in life. Holding on to grudges can become a toxic habit that gradually erodes our peace of mind and creates an ongoing cycle of suffering that affects not only us but also those around us. The emotional toll of unforgiveness is profound. When we allow anger and resentment to fester, they can consume our thoughts and feelings. These emotions begin to define our interactions with the world, shaping how we perceive others and ourselves. We might find ourselves constantly replaying the wrong done to us, reliving the pain over and over in our minds. This repetitive cycle of negative thinking makes it difficult to focus on anything else and distorts our perception of reality. It prevents us from seeing the world with clarity and openness, as we are fixated on the harm done to us. Moreover, These toxic emotions often lead to a heightened state of stress, anxiety, and frustration, which can manifest in physical symptoms such as headaches, fatigue, and even chronic illness. The longer we carry the weight of unforgiveness, the more it undermines our overall well-being. Unforgiveness also affects our relationships with others. The bitterness we hold against one person often spills over into other areas of our lives, impacting our interactions with friends, family, colleagues, and even strangers. It becomes harder to trust, harder to love, and harder to connect with others on a meaningful level. The emotional walls we build to protect ourselves from being hurt again can isolate us, making us withdraw from the very relationships that could offer healing and support. This isolation deepens our sense of loneliness and alienation, and we may find ourselves becoming cynical and distrustful, seeing the worst in others rather than the potential for goodness. In the end, unforgiveness not only ruins our relationship with the person who hurt us, but also creates a broader pattern of emotional disconnection that affects all areas of our lives. Beyond the emotional and relational consequences, unforgiveness also impedes our personal growth. When we are stuck in the past, holding on to the wrongs others have done to us, we prevent ourselves from moving forward. We remain anchored to a moment of hurt and injustice, unable to embrace the present or look toward the future with hope and optimism. This stagnation in our emotional state hinders our ability to pursue new opportunities, to learn from our experiences, and to develop resilience in the face of adversity. By focusing on the pain and wrongs done to us, we remain in a position of victimhood, which limits our ability to take control of our lives and our choices. Unforgiveness keeps us locked in a mindset of helplessness, where we are defined by what others have done to us, rather than by what we can do for ourselves. The burden of unforgiveness often seeps into our spiritual lives. Many spiritual traditions, regardless of religious affiliation, emphasize the importance of forgiveness as a means of cultivating peace, compassion, and harmony. When we choose to hold on to grudges, we distance ourselves from these higher ideals. Unforgiveness blocks our ability to experience true peace, as we are constantly consumed by negative emotions. It creates a disconnect between ourselves and the values that guide our lives, leaving us spiritually unfulfilled. Moreover, when we refuse to forgive, we often carry a sense of moral superiority, feeling justified in our anger. This can create an internal tension, as we struggle to reconcile our desire for justice with our understanding of grace and compassion. In this way, unforgiveness prevents us from fully embracing the spiritual truths that can lead us to greater inner peace. Unforgiveness ultimately hinders our ability to heal. Emotional wounds cannot begin to mend when we continue to pick at them, nurturing feelings of bitterness and resentment. Healing requires space to process, to grieve, and to let go. When we refuse to forgive, we hold on to our hurt, refusing to allow it to be released and healed. It is like continuing to re-injure a wound rather than giving it time to heal. By holding on to unforgiveness, we delay the healing process and prolong our suffering. Only through forgiveness can we begin the journey toward emotional restoration, as it creates the environment in which healing can occur. It allows us to move beyond the hurt and embrace a future that is not dictated by the pain of the past. Forgiving those who have hurt us is often seen as an act of mercy toward the person who wronged us. However, the true power of forgiveness lies not in benefiting the one who caused the harm, but in the freedom it grants to the one who forgives. The decision to forgive is, first and foremost, an act of self-liberation. It is the conscious choice to release ourselves from the emotional prison that resentment, anger, and bitterness create. When we forgive, we are not giving the other person a free pass for their actions, nor are we condoning their behavior. Instead, we are choosing to free ourselves from the grip of the past and allowing ourselves to heal and move forward. Forgiveness offers us a path to emotional freedom by allowing us to break the chains that resentment ties around our hearts. Holding on to the pain of the past traps us in a perpetual cycle of hurt. We carry the weight of the wrong done to us, and the longer we hold on to it, the heavier that burden becomes. It starts to influence every aspect of our lives, our thoughts, our moods, our relationships, and our outlook on the world. We become stuck, unable to move beyond the event that caused us pain, constantly reliving it in our minds and finding ourselves shackled to it. This emotional burden can lead to a host of negative consequences: stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical illness. Forgiveness allows us to put down that burden, offering us the opportunity to release the grip the past holds on our lives. In letting go, we regain control over our emotional state and move forward with a sense of peace. Forgiveness is a powerful tool for restoring peace to our minds. When we refuse to forgive, we allow anger and resentment to dominate our thoughts. These emotions are often not just reactions to the initial harm, but are magnified by our ongoing thoughts about the situation. We may replay the incident repeatedly in our minds, rehashing the pain, the perceived injustices, and the way we were wronged. This rumination only deepens the emotional wound, keeping us trapped in the past. By choosing to forgive, we interrupt this cycle of negative thinking. Instead of dwelling on the offense, we shift our focus to healing. Forgiveness does not erase the memory of the hurt, but it changes our response to it. Instead of carrying the emotional weight, we learn to release it. We regain the ability to think clearly, to assess situations without the filter of anger or hurt, and to approach life with a sense of balance and calm. To emotional freedom, forgiveness opens the door to personal growth. When we hold on to resentment, we often limit our capacity to grow beyond the experience of the wrong. We allow the offense to define us, and in doing so, we remain emotionally and mentally stagnant. We may fall into the trap of victimhood, where our identity becomes tied to the pain we have experienced. This victim mentality can prevent us from moving forward, as we begin to believe that we are defined by the hurt inflicted upon us, rather than by our potential for growth. Forgiveness is the antidote to this stagnation. By letting go of the offense, we take back control of our narrative. We are no longer defined by the wrong done to us, but by the strength and resilience we show in moving past it. Through forgiveness, we step into a place of empowerment where we choose not to be limited by the actions of others, but to shape our own future based on our own choices. Forgiveness also fosters a deeper sense of empathy and understanding. It can be easy to see those who have hurt us as purely bad or evil, to reduce them to their worst actions. However, when we forgive, we make the choice to see them as complex, fallible human beings who are capable of making mistakes, just as we are. Forgiveness invites us to move beyond judgment and to see the humanity in others, even when they have wronged us. This shift in perspective does not mean that we condone or accept the hurtful behavior, but it allows us to approach the situation with greater compassion. We begin to understand that everyone, including ourselves, has been shaped by their own experiences, struggles, and pain. In this way, forgiveness becomes an opportunity for growth, not just for the one who has wronged us, but for ourselves as well. It enables us to develop a greater capacity for compassion, understanding, and grace. Another profound benefit of forgiveness is the restoration of peace in our relationships. Unforgiveness often creates a rift between individuals, causing a barrier that makes genuine connection difficult. When we hold on to resentment, we may struggle to communicate openly, trust others, or share our true selves. This emotional distance can erode relationships, leaving us isolated and disconnected. However, when we forgive, we break down the walls that separate us from others. By releasing the hurt, we open the door to healing and reconciliation. Forgiveness does not always mean that relationships return to their previous state, nor does it guarantee that trust will be fully restored. However, it does create the possibility for understanding, for rebuilding, and for moving forward with a renewed sense of openness and mutual respect. Forgiveness also allows us to free ourselves from the victim mentality. When we hold on to the hurt, we often adopt a mindset where we see ourselves as powerless, forever subject to the wrongs done to us. We may find ourselves feeling angry or resentful at the world for allowing such injustices to occur. This sense of victimhood can lead to feelings of helplessness and frustration, as we believe that we have no control over our circumstances or the people who hurt us. Forgiving, however, shifts this perspective. It empowers us to take control of our own healing. It reminds us that while we cannot control the actions of others, we can control how we respond. By forgiving, we reclaim our power and affirm our ability to heal, grow, and move forward. The power of forgiveness lies in its ability to transform us from victims of our circumstances to active agents of our own healing. It frees us from the grip of the past, allowing us to embrace the present and future with hope, peace, and strength. Through forgiveness, we regain control over our emotional well-being, deepen our relationships, and foster personal growth. It is not just a gift we give to others, it is a gift we give ourselves. By forgiving those who have hurt us, we unlock the door to freedom and peace that can only come from within.